Welcome everybody. In this video, I'm going to talk about file and folder management using the Folders panel in the Library module. So you'll learn how to move folders from one folder to another, rename folders, delete folders, move photos from one folder to another, rearrange them within a folder, delete them, resolve question marks or missing photos and folders, and a few other tasks as well. Now I know this isn't the fun part of Lightroom, it's not the sexy part, that's the Develop module. But a lot of you of course realize how important these skills are. Now as with all of my Library module videos, keep in mind that these skills apply to managing both your photos and your videos. Now often users have a folders panel that looks like this. It's just a list of imported folders. It doesn't show you your entire folder structure by default. So you can't see where these folders live on your hard drive. You also can't move them from one place on your hard drive to another because you can't see your folder structure. So if your folder structure still looks like this, you're going to right-click on a folder and you're going to say Show Parent Folder, or if you have an older version of Lightroom, Add Parent Folder. Now I can see that lives in Stuff. If I right-click on that, Show Parent Folder, that all of a sudden reveals Photos Go Here in Pictures. So now as I look down, I can see that everything is a subfolder of Photos Go Here in Pictures. So I understand where everything lives. I would just keep doing right-click, Show Parent Folder or Add Parent Folder until you fully understand where each folder lives. Now the next thing I want to do is clean up this Stuff folder. These are folders that are not organized according to my new system of Shoot folder within Year folder within Photos Go Here. So I'll click on this Seattle Snow folder, understand what's in it, and if I'm not sure when the photos were photographed, I'll click to expand the right-hand panel, go down to the metadata section, scroll down a little bit, and look at the date created. So this was from January 15th of 2012. I'll collapse that. So I need to put this up here in a 2012 folder. I don't have one yet. So I want it to go within Photos Go Here. So I'm going to right click on Photos Go Here and say Create Folder Inside. I'm going to type 2012, hit enter. Now I have a 2012 folder here. I'll click on Seattle Snow, hold my mouse down, and drag it up and drop it when 2012 becomes highlighted. Now I'm not going to drop it yet. I want you to notice if I move down just a tiny bit, I have a circle with a line through it. So I haven't moved up quite enough at that point. I need to get to the point where I see that little square below my cursor. Now I can let go, and Seattle Snow is now within 2012, and I'm in great shape. So cap letters and small letters need to go within 2009. I don't have a 2009 folder, so I'll right click on Photos Go Here, Create Folder Inside, 2009, hit enter. Now I want to move them both at once. So I'm going to click on cap letters, hold the Shift key down, click on small letters, and I'm going to drag the two together by clicking on either one of them, hold and drag up to 2009. Now I have to say that at least on Windows machines, before Lightroom 4, you couldn't move multiple folders at once. You would have had to move cap letters first and then small letters second. Now on all systems with Lightroom 4, you can select multiple folders and move them all together. So I've got cap letters and small letters in the right place, but they don't have any dates on them. And I want to follow my format. So I'm going to click on cap letters, right click, say rename, and I'm going to put the date. And of course these are just pretend, so date really doesn't matter. And I'll do the same for small letters, right click, rename, and I want to make sure I click at the beginning first so I don't wipe out small letters. And then the last one I need to move is the Smith family shoot. If I click on it, understand what it is, I'll look at the metadata panel. This was from August 7th, 2008. I'll close the metadata panel. First I'm going to go ahead and right click and rename it. Put August 7th here. And then I'm going to create a 2008 folder. Right click on Photos Go Here. Create Folder Inside. And then I'll drag the Smith family up. I missed a space, but that's good enough. So now I've got all of my photos in the right place. I now have these two folders down here that appear to be empty. Now I say appear to be empty because as far as Lightroom can tell, they're empty. There may still be photos or even other documents in these folders that were never imported into Lightroom. So a 0 in Lightroom does not necessarily mean that these folders are empty. Because of this, Lightroom doesn't let you delete folders. It does let you delete individual photos, but not folders. So deleting folders is a two-step process. So let's go through that. What I'm going to do is right-click on my Stuff folder and choose Show in Explorer, Show in Finder. We have to go out there to make sure the folders are empty and then to actually delete them. So here's my Stuff folder. Lightroom just popped open a Windows Explorer or a Finder window with the Stuff folder selected. I'll go into it. I'll make sure that it's empty, and I can't emphasize that enough. And then now that I know it's empty, I'll hit the back button a couple times to get back to the Stuff folder. I'll drag it to my recycle bin, which is of course outside of the video screen. Now that I've deleted it here in Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder, I can come back to Lightroom, and if I click on one of them, you can see that they have question marks. So Lightroom can tell that they're not where it thinks they are, but it doesn't know that I deleted the folders. Or Lightroom's kind of going, huh? So at this point, because I know they've been deleted, I can simply right-click on the folder and say Remove from Lightroom. So now it's off my hard drive and it's not in Lightroom anymore. So just to summarize, when you want to delete a folder in Lightroom that looks empty, right-click, Show in Finder or Explorer, and out there go into it and make sure it's empty, and if so, drag it to the trash. And then back here in Lightroom, right-click and remove. One thing I don't believe I've mentioned that's really important to understand here, and that is that as you're doing reorganization using the Folders panel, you are changing things on your hard drive. You are moving folders on your hard drive, renaming them there, etc. Everything we've done, if you went out to Windows Explorer or Finder, you would see that those changes have been made to your hard drive. So you're operating on your hard drive through Lightroom. It's not only convenient to do it this way because you can actually see what you're working with. You can see all your photos here and decide how to rearrange them. So it's not only convenient, but it's very important. If instead you go out to Windows Explorer and Finder and do all your rearranging and renaming and deleting, when you come back into Lightroom, you're going to have question marks on many of your files and folders because Lightroom can't see you do that work out in Windows Explorer or Finder. It can only see what you do in Lightroom. So as you move things outside of Lightroom, you break Lightroom's connection to the photos. Lightroom becomes confused. So I recommend doing everything in Lightroom. Now I'm going to show you the consequence of not doing things in Lightroom and then how you fix those question marks. So what I'm going to do is go outside of Lightroom and do a little rearranging. I'm going to use Windows Explorer and I'm in my Photos Go Here folder. I'm going to go into my 2009 folder and I'm going to drag the cap letters folder inside the small letters folder. I could drag it to my desktop, I could drag it anywhere I want. The point is that I'm moving it using Windows Explorer and Lightroom can't see that happen. Then I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way and come back to Lightroom. And if I click on my letters folders, you're going to see that my cap letters folder now has a question mark. Lightroom is saying, I thought it was sitting within 2009. I don't see it there. Where is it? It didn't see your move happen. And notice also that every photo within that folder has a question mark as well. It doesn't know where the folder is. It doesn't know where the photos are within the folder. So what you're going to do to resolve this question mark, to tell Lightroom where the folder really is right-click on it and say Find Missing Folder. Now the bad news is that this is not a command to Lightroom to go find the folder for you. This is you telling Lightroom that you're willing to go out and find the folder for Lightroom. So you have to do the work to find the folder. So I'll say Find Missing Folder. Then I know this folder lives within my Pictures folder. I have to do a little work to get to it there, but I'll come down to my users folder, and then I'll go into my Laura folder, and then I'll go into my pictures folder. Photos go here, 2009, small letters, and finally here's my cap letters folder. So I have to tell it that it's in my 2009 folder. I'm going to go ahead and click select folder, and it says, oh, okay, cap letters now lives within small letters. I can verify that the files really are out there, so I'm not confused anymore. So Lightroom has just updated its link. Now from within Lightroom, let's go ahead and take cap letters and move it back up to 2009 here so that it's not within small letters. So I've talked about how to resolve question marks that you get on folders from doing work outside of Lightroom. Sometimes the folders can be fine, but you'll have question marks on individual photos because you went outside of Lightroom to move or rename or delete an individual photo or groups of photos. So let's simulate that scenario. I'm in my small letters folder. I've got number 3, which is the W, number 4, which is the V. I'm going to take number 3. I'm not going to do it in Lightroom here, but out in Windows Explorer, I'm going to move it to my desktop, and then the V I'm actually going to delete. I want to pop open a Windows Explorer window with this folder showing. So actually the quick way to do that is to right-click on small letters, say Show in Explorer or Finder, and then I'll have it here. So I'm going to go into small letters, and I'm going to take small letter number 3 here, and I'm going to move it out to my desktop. And I'm going to take small letter number 4, which is the V, and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to drag it to my trash. So I got ambitious. I was cleaning up some photos out using Windows Explorer or Mac Finder, and now sure enough, I was working outside of Lightroom, so I have questions on the photos here. I don't have questions on the folder because Lightroom still sees the folders sitting in the same place. So I have to locate these. You probably don't know where they are because you don't remember where you moved them to. So you're going to have to go out to Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder, and you're going to have to search for your photo. So yes, we just put it on the desktop, but usually you're not going to remember that. So what I would do is I would note down this file name. I would come out to Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder. I'm at the level of seeing my entire computer. I'll just go into my C drive, and you may be able to look just in your pictures folder. Whatever level you need to look in, you would just go ahead and search for that file name. And eventually it would come back with the photo, and it would tell you that it was on the desktop. So I'm not going to wait for that to finish, but that's the process you have to go through. You have to go out to your system, find the file. Once you know where it is, you can click on the question mark here and say locate file, and then you can tell Lightroom where it is. So I'll go to my desktop, should be able to find my small letter here, select it. So now it knows where the W is. It seemed to disappear from Lightroom, but it didn't. It's just that Lightroom updated its location. It's not in the small letters folder anymore. It's up here on the desktop. Now that we've seen how to resolve that, I'm going to go ahead and drag this back down to small letters. Now back in small letters, we still have the V here. Well, I went and searched for it, and I couldn't find it anywhere on my computer. So I've concluded that I must have deleted it. Now that I know it's been deleted, I'm simply going to right-click, delete photo, and remove it from Lightroom. Now it's gone everywhere. So that's how you resolve question marks. New users, intermediate users, always have question marks. I confess that I still have some question marks myself in my main catalog that I haven't gotten around to cleaning up. Now the desktop is showing here with no photos. I don't want to go through the process of deleting the desktop. I just don't need it to show in Lightroom because I don't have any photos in Lightroom on the desktop. So I'll right-click on that and I'll say remove. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to move photos from one folder to another, and then how to rearrange photos within a folder. Now to move photos, we have to select the photos first. It's a very simple concept, but I'm very specific in how I tell students to select photos. And you're going to find that 90% of the time you can get away with ignoring what I say. But 10% of the time it has the potential to get you into trouble. So I'm going to tell you the very proper and specific way that will keep you out of trouble. Then it's up to you. I'm in the small letters folder, And as I scroll down, I can see I have some capital letters in here. So I have some photos that are not in the right folder. I'm going to move the S. But to select the S, I'm not going to click in the thumbnail. I'm going to click in the gray border. Now I do have to be careful that I don't click on any symbol when I do that. So I'm going to click next to the thumbnail. So click in the border to select, and then to do something with the photo, like move it, click inside the thumbnail. And in this case, because we're moving, you're going to drag. So you're going to drag over to the folders panel and place it in the cap letters folder. And again, be careful that you've moved up enough that you're not seeing that circle with a line through it. And then just let go. Now you're going to get this warning dialog. It simply says that if you move a file on disk, meaning from one folder to another on your hard drive, here in Lightroom as we just did, you're not going to be able to go up to Edit Undo or do Control or Command Z to undo that move. But that's perfectly fine. That's not as scary as it sounds. If you realize you made a mistake, you'll still be able to drag the photo back to where it came from. So don't be afraid of this message. Some people get tired of it and say don't show again. Others like that it gives them an escape route if they realized after they let go that they accidentally were dragging it to the wrong place. But let's go ahead and say OK to this. And it will just move over there. Now we've got 3 more. So I'm going to choose the R. I'm going to select outside of the thumbnail, and then I'm going to click and drag from inside. Now what happens if I click and drag from the border? Absolutely nothing. They will not move if you try to do something by clicking in the border. So click inside the thumbnail, move this to cap letters. Now these two I'm going to go ahead and move together. Now when you have 2 or more photos in a row that you want to select, you can select them all at once by clicking on the first, click in the border, and then holding the Shift key down and clicking on the last. Then once you have them selected, you can click inside either one of the thumbnails and drag them to the correct folder. So again, anytime you want to select a group of photos in a row, click in the border on the first, Shift, click in the border on the last. Now if I want to unselect these, I'll just click in an empty space out here. So let's go over to the cap letters folder, and sure enough, there's some small letters in here. They're all in a row, so the Z is already selected. So I'll hold the Shift key down, click in the border on the E, click and drag from inside the thumbnail, and move them over to small letters. So that teaches you how to move photos from one folder to another, and also how to select photos that are next to each other. Let's look next at how to select photos that are not next to each other. So let's, in this case, go ahead and spell stop. So I've got the S and T next to each other, so I can actually do click, Shift, click. So I've got 2. But now I have photos that are not next to them. So what I need to do is hold down the Control key on the PC or the Command key on the Mac as I select the others. So I'll click in the border to select the P. Now my finger's just going to stay down on the Control or Command key. Select the O. And now that I'm finished, I can let go of the Control or Command key. So now I have the letters selected. Now what I really want to do is rearrange this folder of images with these 4 at the end of the folder, and I'll spell stop at that point. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag from inside any one of the thumbnails, and you'll see as I move around that I get a black line. If I let go, that's where those photos are going to go. In this case, I'm going to click, hold, and drag all the way to the bottom. And I want to put them at the end, and it's hard to see the black line there. You basically need to be overlapping halfway with the A here to get that black line. So now I've got the 4 at the end, and I need to rearrange them to spell stop. So first I'm going to tell you the wrong way to do it. I'm going to take the T, click, hold, and drag after the S. Nothing happens. I'm going crazy. What's going on? Why can't I rearrange my photos? Well, in fact, I told you I wanted to do something with the T, but I didn't select the T properly first. I didn't click in the gray border. I clicked in the thumbnail. Now, because I did that, I didn't break apart this selection of all 4 photos. Now notice that all 4 are brighter than the rest, but the T is the brightest. That means that the T is the active one. It's not really relevant to what we're doing now. It will become relevant in other situations. But again, I clicked inside the thumbnail, so Lightroom is still trying to do something with all 4 photos. You see this stack under the T? If I want to do something with a T, I need to select it by clicking in the border, then click inside the thumbnail to move it. So now select the O and move it. So let's just do one more exercise where we select multiple photos not in a row. We'll spell the word gal. So I'll click to select the G, controller command, click to select the L, controller command, or in other words, my finger's still down on the controller command to select the A, and we'll put it right after the S here. And then if I want to move the L, select the L to break apart the selection, and then drag it. Now there are some situations where clicking and dragging, you're not going to be able to move the photos. You're not going to see the black line. And I have to tell you that when I taught my first Lightroom workshop, it didn't work for me, and I could not for the life of me figure out why. So that was a very humbling experience. Of course, during a break, I ran out to Google to find out why. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to set up the circumstance where it's not going to work. Okay, so I'm back. The letters kind of switched there on you, but that's fine. I've got the L selected. I'm going to click and drag it, and it's not moving. So when I let go, in Lightroom 4, I'm going to get some information. But before Lightroom 4, there was no information given. So it says custom order, which is what we're doing by clicking and dragging, is not supported on a folder that contains subfolders. So when I paused the video, I moved from the cap letters folder, which had no subfolders, up to the 2009 folder. Because that folder has subfolders, I can't rearrange things at the 2009 level. I can click and drag to my heart's content, but I'm never going to get a black line. I'm not going to be able to move them. There are other situations where you're not going to be able to as well. If, for example, you are up in one of these catalog choices, let's say I imported some photos, which means that Lightroom has put me on this previous import shortcut. In that case, I'm not going to be able to move the photos. I've got to be down in the folder that has no subfolders to actually move them. In collections, which we haven't gotten to, in a regular collection, you can move them. But if you're in some kind of smart collection, you also will not be able to move them. So generally, a folder with no subfolders or a regular collection. Just a couple more topics here. The next one is how to delete photos. So if I want to delete this Z, I can right-click and choose Delete Photos, or I can simply click the Delete key on my keyboard. Now I have 2 choices. I can just remove it from Lightroom, which will leave it in the folder on my hard drive, but I won't see it in Lightroom, or I can also delete it from my hard drive. Most people, including myself, I think should usually choose Delete from Disk. If I don't see it in Lightroom, to me it doesn't exist. I really want to get rid of the photo completely, so I'll delete from disk. There will be exceptions, I'm sure, but sometimes new users choose Remove, and they don't understand why their hard drive is still filling up so fast. I want to simulate this situation again where I had a selection of a bunch of photos, and now I want to delete the X. I'm going to click on the X, and I'm going to hit Delete. Well, guess what? I'm deleting 5 photos. Why am I deleting 5 photos? Because again, when I started to mentally focus on the X, I went and clicked inside the thumbnail on the X. Because of that, it didn't break apart any prior selection, and I really would be deleting 5 photos. So I'd click in the border, hit delete, and I would in fact just be deleting 1. I've heard many real-life sad stories of people that do that. Click inside one photo, go ahead and hit delete from disk without even reading this, and they've deleted 500 photos without even realizing it. Yes, you can get them back from the trash, but you may have lost all of your Lightroom work. The last thing I want to cover is how to tell Lightroom to go out and look in a folder and see if there are any more photos out there that Lightroom doesn't yet know about. That process is called synchronizing. So let's say that I've gotten Lightroom and I think I've gotten everything imported, but I want to check my pictures folder to see if there's anything else out there. What I can do is right-click on Pictures and say Synchronize Folder. Lightroom will go check my pictures folder, looking for any subfolders, any photos anywhere in it that have not yet been imported into Lightroom. It found in my case just one photo, and what I want to do is show the import dialog before it imports them so I can decide if they're things I really do want in Lightroom. It also found one photo in pictures with a question mark on it. I don't want it to remove those. I need to take a look at that before I decide whether it should be removed or located. And then scan for metadata updates is fine. This really only comes into account if you're working with multiple programs. So I'm going to go ahead and click Synchronize. It's going to open up the import dialog, and it's doing it in a collapsed form, so I'm going to click on this triangle here. And I'll see the one photo that it found in my pictures that's not yet in Lightroom. I'm going to add it to the catalog without moving it. I could apply keywords, but this could really be a jumble of photos and folders. So I'm probably just going to click Add and then click Import. And now I've got this photo in here. So now I know that I've got everything in my pictures folder in Lightroom. Okay, one last thing I just realized I didn't cover. There's always just one more thing, but I'm going to go ahead and go to this Oregon Coast folder here and show you. I've showed you how to click and drag photos around to manually rearrange. But down here in the toolbar, you also have some sort orders that are more specific. You can sort by capture time. If you've already applied star ratings to your photos or pics, you can sort by ratings, pics, colors, and other information as well. So I can choose capture time, for example, and if I want to flip the order so that the most recent is first, that's what this A to Z button is for. So now they're sorted backwards, with the first captured last. Okay, so this really does conclude the video on file and folder management.